Hello and welcome to English Learning. In this video, I'm going to recite the poem Mallika, which is written by Amreeta Syam. So without wasting much time, let's begin. Don't call my daughter Mallika, call her by any other name. Don't call my daughter Mallika, it only increases my pain and brings to my mind things long forgot. The years pass by so fast, and yet a whiff of the summer skies brings Mallika's name to my heart. Perhaps you'll smile at a story that begins so ordinarily. It began the day Sanadda brought his child bride home, and we all flocked around to see. Mallika was a child bride. Innocence still touched her face, and yet, beside her husband, she was a veritable image of grace. Sanadda's body was twisted. He had never been able to walk. He lay on a bed on the veranda of his house and wrote and read, teaching the village kids whenever the mood took him, and sometimes just gazing at the blue skies, the palm trees, the fleecy clouds, sometimes just tormented by thought. Mallika's parents were desperately poor, and they had 11 more mouths to feed. They would have married Mallika off to death himself. Sanadda to them was a god in disguise, and perhaps one cannot really blame them. Their long-haired daughter came into my life in the guise of Sanadda's wife. His mother was full of pride. She decked Mallika with ornaments, braided her hair with flowers, called her daughter-in-law Lakshmi and Saraswati, all rolled into one, invited her neighbors and fed them with sweets. Mallika blushed and hid her face. Sanadda smiled wryly, and it was he who gave his child bride the name of Putul. Putul was not beautiful. Her dark face was too thin and serious for her years. The years of neo-starvation had left her body like a reed that could snap under pressure. Her one beauty was her long black hair that would flow like a wave around her. An ebony cloak catching the lush gold of the sun. Mallika was not beautiful, but the laughter in her eyes drew everyone to her, my mother said. Putul was the pet of the village. Her family adored her. Her dry, humid husband's eyes were tender as they rested on his wife. In an age where mothers-in-law were harsh, it would be difficult to say that Sanadda's mother was not hers too, and her widowed sister-in-law Niludi doted on her brother's wife. Even our cross and cussed dog, Bhola, grinned ingratiatingly as she rustled by. And I became her devoted slave and favored companion. Putul soon tired of playing at being bride and blossomed under all the love she received. She ran in and out more like a daughter than a daughter-in-law of the house. Her elders watched indulgently. She teased me and said in truth, I should call her Baudi. I put out my tongue at her and ran away. She caught me and boxed my ears. Such was our childhood. Sanadda decided to give his wife lessons and educate her. I often joined them. She was much quicker than I at learning, and her teacher was proud of her and exasperated with me. I was bored with lessons and I ran off to play in the green fields, swim in the lazy river, and catch fish. I was angry with her for not joining me, but she had turned serious, she had grown up. Watching Sanada and her, neighbors would sigh sentimentally and say, "A veritable Hara Gauri, a truly devoted pair." Putul was completely at ease with her deformed husband. She teased him, she twitted him, she laughed at and with him. They would debate with intensity on various subjects. Often in the sun-shadowed evenings, as I went by, I would see them sitting on the veranda, talking. Sometimes she would cross into the house and settle a shawl on her husband's bent shoulders. The little gesture spoke of so much, and I was angry. I was straight and strong-limbed, full of youth and vitality. And she spent all her time with a dried-out bookworm, she who had blossomed into a woman surging with brimful life and lit with the brilliance that flamed in Sannada's eyes. I was determined that she would take notice of me. Ah, youth! I went daily to her house and spoke passionately of freeing my country from foreign rule. The country was aflame with the fire of patriotism, and I ached to do my bit. Gradually, she became aware of me again, or perhaps it was my straight limbs, strong shoulders, and crisply curling hair, and the lure of my eyes that called her. More than I ever did. She paled and grew brighter in my presence, like a candle straining at the flame, at life. Sannada watched his wife's face and mine quietly, and I was content that I had her love. Though not a single word was exchanged, Sannada died in his sleep one day, and Putul became a widow. She had never been so beautiful in her life as she was in her widowed white, with her long black hair flowing gently around her. One day I stopped her at the riverside and told her how passionately I loved her, how I would move heaven, earth, and all the stars to catch a glimpse of her smile. I told her all the silly things lovers say, and she smiled at me and said, "Will you marry me?" I reeled in shock. What words were these coming from a newly made widow? She answered simply, "My husband taught me to be direct." And oh, she was so very direct. Standing straight and tall with her long hair wrapped around her, she simply said, "Would you marry me?" As if it was so simple. I had thought she would understand and smile sadly and turn, heartbroken, away, protesting her loyalty to Sannada's memory. Besides, there was the stigma still attached to marrying a widow. And I came from a Brahmin household. Oh, I would have gladly given all my blood for my motherland. I would have given my life for my country. Yet, to think of marrying one of her widowed daughters made my heart quail. I loved Mallika, but how could I marry her? I said as much to Putul and my answer came out sullenly. The river whipped its banks furiously, and the palm trees stared under the blue skies of Faridpur. I saw the gentleness that was in Mallika take on a black, furious terribleness. How could I have forgotten that in Bengal, another form of the gentle Lakshmi is the dark goddess Kali, worshipped with blood and drums, a goddess of fierce pride, embodying Shakti, the strength and power of woman. Blood flamed into my face and drummed in my ears as the golden-limbed Mallika said in tones as clear as crystal water, "I see." She turned to go, and I mumbled, "I love you, but—" Putul turned to me, and that terrible pride glinted in her eyes. "Love?" She laughed. "I will choose life." And Sanat's wife walked away into the twilight, her black hair swirling like foam around her. I was ashamed and fled to Calcutta, muttering about the illogical female race. My mother was glad that I had taken to studies seriously. I came back after 3 years, dreading and hoping to see Putul. On the train journey swishing past the sun-lashed fields, I thought of Mallika. Maybe, I thought, she has gone home. I thought she might have ended everything at the river, where I bade farewell to her. I shivered at the thought, and my heart filled with love and pity for her. I reached home, and as soon as I could, I went for a walk by the pathways of Faridpur, so sorely missed all these years. And there I learnt that my Mallika had married the zamindar, her Narayan Rai, and borne him twin sons. The very breezes stilled and the trees mocked me. "Fool that you were, you never bade farewell to Mallika. It is she who freed herself of you and chose life." I buried my face in the soft earth of Faridpur and howled to the skies. I saw Mallika with her sons on her breast, gazing at me with their mother's eyes and her direct glance, and I could not bear for shame to look at her. You see, I loved her, and I would have dared the whole world to call her mine. But I was too late, and in that one realization, I had matured 100 years. Mallika never saw me again, for I returned to Calcutta, and she died soon after, bearing her third child, a daughter, who I imagine has inherited her mother's black mane of hair and the dancing eyes. But there never will be another Mallika. She wrote a book that became a bestseller the year before her death. She dedicated it to Sanat, the man who had gifted her with all his brilliance and lit a speaking flame in her soul. No, she never saw me again, and I haven't read her book. When I think of her, I think of Faridpur, the home that I had lost, together with the one woman for whom my heart beats still. But I never knew it then. No, I do not want to name my daughter Mallika. I do not want to awaken the pain. How can there be another Mallika? There was only one who could bear the name.